We begin today the Gemara on Daf Tzadik Vav Amud Beis, 13 lines up from the bottom of the Yamud. Ibaya Lahu. The Gemara here is talking about the halachis of a shoyal, a person that borrows a cow, and what is his responsibility if something happens to it. So Ibaya Lahu, the Shaila was asked, Kichesh Basar Machmas Malacha. A person borrowed a cow and he works with it, and the flesh of this animal gets weakened because of the work that it did. So what's the halacha? Does the shoyal have to pay for this weakness? He's returning the cow not in the same condition that it was when he borrowed it. So the Rabbanan said to the ones that asked this question, his name is Rav Chilki, the son of Ravivye, you're asking the question only regarding a situation where because he worked with the animal becomes weaker. But from this I understand that you're thinking that if the animal dies because of its work, machayev, then the shoyal should be responsible. But he says the question is, name alay, let the borrower tell the owner, lav leukme bekilte sheilta. I didn't borrow this animal just to place it inside under a canopy to do nothing. I borrowed it to do work, and it was working, and as a result of the work it died, so I'm not responsible for that. So therefore, Rava said about this halacha here, going back to the Ibaya, needless to say that if you're working with the animal and as a result of the work, the animal gets weaker, that you are potter, you don't have to add any value. When you return the animal in the condition that it's now. Even if the animal dies as a result of the work, nami potter, you're also going to be potter. The amalei, because you tell the owner, lav leukme bekilte sheilta. I didn't borrow the animal to place it under a canopy. I took it to work with it, and I worked with it, and it died. So therefore, I'm not responsible for this. Now the Rishonim explain this because the halacha regarding a borrower is that if it's mesa kedarka, if you borrow an animal and it just dies, you are responsible for it, even though it's an einus. So over here, it dies because of the work. Why should you not be responsible for this? Why is this any less than that? So the Ramban says the reason is because basically the svara of the Gemara is you turn back to the owner and you say to him, the fact that it died as a result of the work is your fault. If you know that this animal is a weak animal and it can't handle plowing, it can't handle doing work, and I'm borrowing the animal from you for this purpose to do work with it, and it dies as a result of the work, so you're the one that lent me this animal and caused the fact that the animal died as a result of this. You should have told me that the animal can't. It's like a person that rents a car or borrows a car, and he tells the person, I'm taking the car to this and this place, and it dies, and you're going such a far location. So it's his fault that he gives you this for such a purpose. That's why it's the responsibility of the owner. So you're potter. Hahu gavre the shol narge mechavre. A person borrowed an axe from his friend. Itvar, the axe broke, and this is a case where it broke in the work. He was chopping down a tree and it breaks. Osla kamei the Rava, so came to Rava, Amalei, so Rava says to him, Zil Aisi Sadi, bring Adim, Dulav Shonis Bey, that you didn't do anything unusual with this axe. You were just using it for chopping down wood and doing the regular work with it. And ve'ifter, and you'll be potter, just like we explained there, that you'll be potter if you're doing the regular work with it. Now here the Gemara says that you have to bring Adim. So there's a big discussion in Shainim about this, because usually regarding any case where a person claims something that he borrowed or where he wants to pater himself, it's enough to make a shvuah, just to swear what your claim is. Here though, the Gemara says that you have to bring Adim. In the simple pshat of the Gemara, it's saying that you have to actually have Adim for this. We don't rely on his shvuah. But other Shainim say that we could rely on his shvuah, and the Gemara here it's saying this is lav dafke, even with a shvuah, you would be believed. Now, if he has no Adim for this, so what is going to be his responsibility to pay? Does he have to give him back a brand new axe or not? Toshamas, the Gemara says, I'll bring you a raya from what happened. Another case, a person borrowed an axe from his friend, and it broke. He came in front of Rav. Amalei, and Rav told him that he couldn't prove that this axe broke because of the work, so he's responsible to pay for it. So what does he have to pay? So Rav told him, Zil shlimle narge ma'alya. Go pay him a brand new axe. That's Rashi's pshat in this Gemara. So Amalei Rav Kahane, Rav Asi Rav Kahane and Rav Asi both asked Rav, Dina hochi? Is this the halacha that he has to pay him a brand new axe? And V'shasik Rav was quiet. What was the question that they were asking? So Rashi here brings, the question is based on the Mishnah that says in Bava Metzia that by any mazik, if your animal was mazik another person's animal, or any kind of hezek that you caused, and now you have a nevela, what's the halacha? The owner takes back his nevela, and you now just have to pay him the difference of the value of the live animal to the dead carcass. But you don't have to give him a brand new live animal. He takes the dead carcass and you pay the difference. So over here, you should give back the owner the broken pieces of this axe, and whatever little value you can have from it, he has from it, and then you just have to add him the difference. And so the Gemara says, "V'hilchase karav kahana v'ravasi." The halach is like Rav Kahana and Ravasi. The mahadale tavrei. You give him back the broken pieces of this axe, and you add the money, the value of what the full amount was, the difference between the value of the full amount and the broken axe. There was a person, the shol davle mechavrei. He borrowed a pail from his friend to draw water with it. It broke. So he came to Rav Papa. So Rav Papa Paskin, like the Gemara said before, like Rav Paskin, Amalei says to the borrower, you bring Adam that you did not use this pail any different than what it's usually used for, and you'll be potter, because this is Mesa Machmas Malacha, it breaks in the middle of the work. There was an individual, the Shal Shunre Mechavre. He borrowed a cat from his friend. What is he using this cat for? As we see here right here in the continuation of the Gemara, a person wants to have a cat in order for the cat to eat up the mice that his house is infested with. So, but what happened? But the mice ganged up on this cat, and they killed the cat. So the question is now whether the borrower is responsible for this happening. So we just said before, if it's machmas malacha, if it dies because of the work it's doing, so then you're potter. But over here, the cat has to do its work to eat up the mice, but instead, the mice attack the cat. So Yosef Ravashi, Ravashi had a shaila over here, ki hai gavna mai. What's the halacha in this case? Do I say ki meisa machmas malacha dami? This cat died doing its work, so it's just the normal work that it does, and therefore the shaila is not responsible. Or maybe no, maybe he should be responsible for this. Amalei Rav Mordechai Ravashi, so Rav Mordechai said to Ravashi, Hachi Amar Avimi Magrunya Mishmei de Rave. Avimi from Agrunya says in the name of Rave, Gavre, a man, the Noshik Katlu, that women killed him. Leidine v'leidaine. There's no judgment on them for killing him, because it's something that the man could protect himself from this. So therefore, it's something that happened over here, which is completely unusual, and therefore it's not, there's no din, there's no dayan about this. And obviously, this doesn't mean that if a woman kills a man, that she's not going to be chayiv misa. That's not what it's talking about over here. Well, what it's saying is that this is something which is completely unexpected, and therefore you can't consider this to be something normal. So over here as well, when the mice came and ate up this cat, you can't say that this person is responsible, that he should have been careful that these mice shouldn't eat up this cat. Why did he let this cat go and do its work to eat up the mice? He should have realized that this is something that's unusual, that the mice are gonna eat the cat. It is something which is unusual, and therefore he didn't know that this could happen. So therefore it's Meisa Machmas Malacha, and he's potter. The example of the Gemara, like din of like dain, it's interesting lashon, but that's what it means. It's bringing out this nekuda that it's not something which is usual, and therefore you potter because of meis machmas malacha. Ikkeda amri, others say that the story happened a little differently. Achol achberi tuve, this cat ate up so many mice, it did its job so well. V'chavel umis, and the body of the cat, it got so heated up that it just died. Yosef Ravashi v'kamayim bo. So Ravashi was asking the shaila in this case, kahai gavna mai. What's the halacha in this case? Is it meisa machmas malacha and you potter or not? Amalei Rav Mordechai Ravashi hachiyama avimi magrunya. That avimi magrunya said over here, it doesn't say in the name of Rave, that gavre the noshi katlu, a man that the women killed him, and what it's talking about over here is that this man had so many physical relations with these women that it brought his body to get so weak that he dies. Loy dine v'loy daine. This is not something that you can judge these women for causing him to die, because it's something that's completely not normal, something that's totally not expected. And therefore here as well, the cat is doing its job. It's eating up the mice. The fact that it ended up eating so much and it died, that's not something that the shayla is responsible for. It's considered to be meisa machmas malacha. You can't say that he was mishana, he did something unusual, that he could have expected this to happen. Omar Rava said, Haiman the boy lemishal midi mechavre. A person that wants to borrow something from his friend, viliftar, but he wants to be potter from paying. So name so what he could do is let him tell the owner when he's borrowing something from him, ashke maya, give me to drink water. So then, so now he's borrowing this object from this owner, while the owner is also being borrowed. You're using the services of the owner because he's giving you to drink water. As we learned before, the significant time of when she'ela b'bailam patas you is as long as at the time of the borrowing, the owner of this object is working for you, doing something for you, then even if later on he's not, you're going to be pater. And even if he's doing something for you which is not in this animal itself that you're borrowing from him, he's just giving you to drink water, you're going to be pater. But if the owner is smart, he's going to tell the borrower, shal bereisha, that first you borrow the cow, and I'll give you to drink water afterwards. So as long as he gives him to drink water afterwards, so at the time when he's borrowing, he's not yet borrowed to him as well. He's not working for him, giving him to drink the water. If you give him to drink the water afterwards, it's too late. It's not going to be she'ela b'bailam. At the time of the actual borrowing, he wasn't working for him yet. Omar Rava. Rava said regarding this halacha of she'ela b'bailam, mikri dardaki, a person that's a teacher for children. So a person hires a malamed, a teacher for his children, or a shasla, a person that is a sharecropper. He works and he plants in the vineyard, and he gets a certain percent, half for himself. Or a tavche, a shaychit that's doing work for the people of the city, or v'umne, a bloodletter, a safar masa, a barber. So all these people, they're hired to work for the people of the city. So kulon, bi'idan aviditayu, all of them in the time of when they are hired to do the work, kishela b'bailam dami. It's so then if anybody borrows from them while they are also doing work for you, so then it's going to be she'ela b'bailam. You're borrowing from them and they're also doing a service for you. They're hired to do a service for you. So in Rashi, it's mashma, right, from Rashi, it's mashma has to be at the same time, meaning, for example, the barber. If while the barber is giving you a haircut, so you borrow something from him, so then it's going to be she'ela b'bailam. But from other Rishonim, it's mashma that because this person is hired for the entire city to be available for anybody of the city at any time when you want to take a haircut, so even if he's not actually giving you a haircut right now, but if you borrow from him because he's already hired, for all the people of the city, it's going to be considered to be she'ela b'bailam. So now based on this, the students of Rava said to their teacher Rava, Shol Mar, the master is borrowed to us, you are hired by us, you belong to us. And so now they meant to say this, and Mefarshim say they meant to say this as an expression of appreciation, the fact that he's available for them and he's teaching them and so on. But when he heard what they said, ikbid, he was particular about this. He took it in a way that they're basically saying, Amalahu, he said to his students, are you saying this because you want to take away my money and then you won't be responsible? Because what you're basically saying is, since I'm hired, I'm your teacher and I'm teaching you Torah, so my services are being hired by you, so therefore if you borrow anything from me, you'll be potter. It's she'ela b'bailam because I'm teaching you. So Rava tells them, you're making a mistake. On the contrary, Aton she'ilton li, you are hired to me. You, the students, are here to my service. Why? Because the ilu anam matzi ishtamuteluchum mesechta. I can switch. I can decide that I want to change the learning from one mesechta to another. I'm the one that sets the schedule of what exactly we're going to be learning. But you can't change the mesechta from one mesechta to another. So therefore, who's hired for who? I want to teach Torah, and you are here making it. You're here servicing me to give me the opportunity to be able to teach Torah, and I decide what I want to teach. So therefore, it's the other way around. You're hired to me. Now, the Gemara says, "V'loihi." What Rava said is not necessarily always the case. It depends when this is. In the days of the Kala, which was the days before Yom Tiv, when he had to teach the halachas related to that Yom Tiv, so then it's not his choice to choose which Masechta he wants to teach. He has to teach the subject of the Yontif. So then in those days, Rava is hired to his students. But in the rest of the year, when Rava could decide which Masechta he learned, and he could switch and decide whatever he wanted any day, then Taka, the students are hired to him. Sagt die Gemara weiter, Mereime bar Chanina. So Mereime bar Chanina oige kudnaise bei chuzoi. So he rented out a kudnaise, which is a pereda, a mule, or a mule to the people by chuzoi. So when he rented out this mule, nafek ledeluye tuna ba'dayu. So he went out. So the simple pshat here is he went out to help them to load the packages on this mule. So now what happened over here is not only is he renting them this mule, he's also himself helping them. He's being borrowed to them, doing his services to help them to load it. Pashuba umis. Later, the people by Chuzai, they were negligent with this mule, and it died. Asla kamei de Rave, they came to Rave, chayvinu, and Rave said they're responsible to pay for their negligence. So the students asked Rave, why are they responsible? They were negligent, but when the loan began, when they borrowed, he was working with them. So it was together with the owner that was with the animal that they borrowed. So you should be pater, even if it was a negligence. So ichsif. So Rava was embarrassed that he paskin the psaktim was not right. But the soif the gloy milsa, in the end it was revealed that he didn't really go out to load the packages to offer his services to help them together with the animal that they're borrowing. Rather, the lemeisar to unu denafik, he went out just to see, to make sure that they're not overloading his donkey, to make sure that they're not going to cause any harm to this donkey. But he wasn't really helping them at all. So it was not pshiyah b'bailim. So therefore, Rava's psaktim was actually right. Now the Gemara asks on this version of the story, we said here that what happened? The people that borrowed were negligent. This version of the story could be true according to the opinion that we had before in the Gemara. There's an argument about this, but according to one opinion, even if the person is negligent, but if at the time when you borrowed it, the owner was with you, you're going to be pater. So therefore Rava was embarrassed that he paskin that Yechayev. But we had before that an opinion that says that this whole petur of Shia B'Bailim is only if there's a Oynes or a Gneve Vaveda, but it doesn't go back to the case of the Shem Echina where there's a Pshia. For that you still will be Chayev. Why did Rava get embarrassed? He paskined right. So the Gemara says, according to that opinion, the story that happened was different. Loi mivshe pashuba. The people that borrowed this mule were not negligent with it. Ele ignuvi igniv. Actually, the story over here is that they weren't borrowing. Keep on saying borrowing. The story here is that they were renting. They were renters. So they did not. These renters, they were not negligent. Rather, it got stolen. Umeisa kedarka, and then in the possession of the ganev, it died. By ganev, by the house of the ganev. That's the story that happened. And they came to Rava. And Rava says that they're chayiv because a renter is chayiv for gneva v'aveda. The Gemara here is following the opinion that a seicher, a renter, has the same halacha as a shem sachar that's responsible for gneva v'aveda. And on this, Omru leRabbana leRava, the Rabbana said to Rava, gneva b'bailim, that it got stolen, but because he was helping them to load the packages when it was rented, so it's together with the service of the bailim, you should be pater. And ichsif, he got embarrassed, and l'sayf v'gloi milsa, and then in the end it was revealed, the lemeisa tunu denafik. He did not help them load it. Adarabah, he went out to make sure that they're not overloading it, but he did not help them at all. So therefore, there's no gneva b'bailim. The Gemara here says that it got stolen and then it died kedarka in the possession of the ganevs. Why does the Gemara add that detail that it died in the possession of the ganevs? So Rashi says the Gemara is saying even though usually when it's mesa kedarka in the possession of the renter you'd be pater because it's an inus, it just died. You should be pater. But the Gemara here is saying, but if after it got stolen then it dies in the possession of the ganev, you are going to be chayev. Because it doesn't make a difference where it would have died by you, would have died by them. That doesn't make a difference. But the fact that it was in the possession of the Ganev, you're responsible for that. That's the chiddush that the Gemara is saying here. A person borrows a cow. Now, what happened was actually he didn't the cow wasn't borrowed fully. Rather, shaloch chatziyim. The agreement was that for half of the day it's considered to be borrowed. Uschara chatziyim. and he's renting it for another half of the day. So basically, he's giving him a price, a reduced price, and he says, okay, half of the day you're not a renter, you're just borrowing it. The other half of the day you're renting it. Or Shala Hayayim, he borrows it today in Schara Lamacha. But for the next day, I'm not ready to lend it to you for 2 days. If you want, you can borrow it today. But if you want to keep it a second day, tomorrow it's a rental. Or Sachar Achas V'Shal Achas. He borrowed 2 cows. He rented one, and the other one he borrowed. Umeisa, and now the cow dies. So here there's an argument between the owner and the borrower. What happened? The mashal, the owner says, Shula Mesa. It's the borrowed cow that died. So if it's the borrowed cow that died, so you're responsible for the oinus that it died. Or he says regarding the other case, but Shula Mesa. In the day that you borrowed it, it died. Or Bishar Shaisa Shula Mesa. If it was in the same day, that part of the day it was a rental and part of the day we were borrowing it, he says, in the time of the day that it was that you borrowed it, that's when it died. And the borrower says, any day, I'm not sure at what time the period it died. So in such a case, chayev, the borrower is going to have to pay. So here Rashi says, the simple pshat of this Mishnah is, the one that's demanding the money from you is coming with a definite, a tainis body, that he says, I know for a fact that you're responsible to pay me, and the one that says that no, I'm potter, so he says I don't know. It's Shtainis Shema, he doesn't know. So body v'shema, body adif. The one that has a definite claim, and you have the claim that you're saying, maybe I'm not sure, so in such a case, you're going to be chayiv to pay.
How does he know?
Okay.
Maybe if he's with him.
Well, he happened to be walking by. He wasn't working for him. But he says, he says, I was there. I saw when it died, and the borrower says, no, I didn't say. I don't know. Oh. So in such a case, it's going to be chayiv. Another possibility of what happens, the seicher is the one, the renter / borrower. He comes and says, schura mesa. At the time when it was rented is when it died. So that was an einus, and therefore, as a renter, I'm potter for this. Or b'yayim sheis schura mesa. On the day that it was rented, it died. Or b'shah sheis schura. In the time of the day that it was rented, it died. And it's the owner that says, Eni yedeya. I'm not sure exactly when it died. So potter. In such a case, is going to be potter. And this is really simple. It's obvious. If you say body v'shem or body other from the previous case, for sure over here, in this case, where he's the muhsik in the money, and you want to be mitzi money from his possession, and he says, I know for a fact that I'm potter, definitely he's going to be potter. A third case, each one of them is claiming body with a definite claim. The owner says, I know that in the time when it was borrowed is when it died, and you're chayav to pay. And the borrower / renter says, I know at the time when it was rented is when it died, and therefore I'm potter. So then Yishava Haseiche Sheschura Mesa. So he has to swear that at the time when it was rented is when it died, and it'll be potter. And in the previous case, he's potter without any shvua. Here he has to swear, and then it'll be potter. If the case over here is that both the owner and the borrower / renter says it's not clear when it happened, so it's a suffix if he's chayev or potter. So the halacha is yachlaiku. In such a case, because there's a suffix if he's chayev or potter, so then he has to pay half. So Rashi here says that the Tana of this Mishnah holds like the opinion of Sumchit that's brought in Shas all the time. Anytime there's a doubt regarding money, if you chayev or potter, yachlaiku, you divide it. According to the Chachamim, though, we don't pass in this way. That if nobody knows what happened, then the one that wants to take out the money has to first bring proof. Until then, you're going to be potter.
The previous case is also a suffix. This one says shul, this one says chuda.
Yeah, but over there it's a body or body, right? So it's also a suffix. But by a shomer with a tiniest body, you can make a shvuah and pati yourself, right? That's by every halacha of a shomer where the owner says that it was a pshia and the shomer says no, it wasn't a pshia. The Torah says that if you make a shvuah, you potter. So over there, the Torah gives you the ability to make a shvuah to pati yourself. But over here, because nobody knows, in such a case, you can't make a shvuah like the Torah said. So in such a case, the halacha is maman amutal b'safik chalken. The Gemara goes back to the first case where it was a body v'shema. The owner says, I know for a fact that you owe me the money because it died at the time when it was a shula, and you're responsible for the einus, and he was a taina shema. He says, I don't know, and the Mishnah said, Yechayev.
He says it was a seicher.
He says at the time when it was rented, correct? And therefore, I'm potter for this einus. But he's a shema though. Again, he doesn't know. The first case was he's a shema, right? There's the seicher says that any yedeya. The top line of the second v'hala oime any yedeya. So in a case where it's body v'shema, we say body yadif. Says the Gemara, Shamit Minei. So now we could learn out from our Mishnah regarding a similar scenario where you have a tainas body against a tainas shema. A person approaches his friend and says, Mana li biyotcha, you owe me $100. And the person responds and says, Any yedeya, I don't remember. I don't remember if I borrowed the money. Doesn't remember what happened. Chayiv. So in such a case, you're going to be chayiv. As you see here clearly in our Mishnah, where the owner says that you owe me the money because it died at this and this time and you're responsible, and the borrower / renter says, I'm not sure, so in such a case, you're chayiv. If so, leime tehevi to yufta de Rav Nachman. What it says there in our Mishnah is a question, it refutes the opinion of Rav Nachman. The Itmar, as we learned, Rav Nachman says regarding this case, Mon libi yotcha. If a person comes and says, you owe me $100, and the person answers, any yedeya, I can't remember. Rav Huna and Rav Yudah Amri Chayev. Rav Huna and Rav Yudah say because he says he knows for a fact, and you say you don't know, so his taina of body is stronger than your taina, so you're going to be chayev to pay. But Rav Nachman, Rav Yechanan and Amri, Rav Nachman and Rav Yechanan both say potter. You're going to be potter in such a case, and the reason why you're potter, even though he has a stronger taina than yours, is because when it comes to money, wherever the money is, we leave it there. Rashi says, there's Allah of a even though you say yourself that you don't know, but the money still is in your possession. If he wants to be mitzi money from you, he has to bring a proper proof of that. Just the tiniest body is not strong enough. He has to bring Aiden for this. There's a big discussion over here in Taisvis. This is the concept of body v'shema. There's a big discussion in Taisvis regarding this concept of body v'shema because there's different possibilities of body and shema. When a person says a tainas body, there are certain times when you say body where the body is not a very, very strong body because you're not afraid that the other person will be able to snatch out your lie. So it's easy for you to say body. And there's sometimes when a person says shema, when the shema is not a very weak shema because you're not expected to know. But then there's a situation of a shema where the person is saying shema and there's something fishy over here. Why? It looks like the person is saying shema because he's trying to avoid to pay. He's expected to know this. There's a lot of different cases. There's a body toiv, shema gerua, could be a body gerua, and shema toiv. There's different teifanim. Over here, the Gemara is comparing this case of the mana to the case of our Mishnah that we see over here that you have a body v'shema. And in our Mishnah it says that you're going to be chayiv, and Rav Nachman and Rav Yechanan say that regarding such a case of body v'shema, you potter. So it clearly refutes their opinion. Okay, so the Gemara is going to continue the whole Gemara on Daf Tzadik Ches that will explain that this Mishnah is a completely different case. It's not just a simple case of body v'shema. And we'll see.